The United States has always been known as the home of the brightest, bravest, most innovative, and most daring individuals. Yet, even though our history is full of stories of unique, dynamic people who accomplished the most amazing things, it is an entire generation which pulled together to do the most incredible of them all. From the soldier to the factories run almost entirely by young women, from each and every citizen who lived under the discomfort of rationing, to the newspaper journalists whose job required them to get the scoop.
The entire nation was in it together, bound by the determination to allow freedom to continue to reign. This is the story of William Dieterle, a soldier, a neighbor, and a hero. A hero who, like so many other heroes at the time, just blended in because at that time, heroes were nearly everywhere you looked.
William, your father tells me you wish to join the Army?
Yes, Mother. I'm actually going to enlist before school is finished.
Why on earth would you want to do that? There are plenty of jobs around here. There's no need to leave.
It's just the thing to do, Mother. A lot of my friends are joining too.
It was a thing to do, and I liked that kind of life in the artillery. And I joined while I was still in high school, but it was peacetime. And then we went to Mississippi for a year's training.
The years seemed to fly by for the young soldier.
Smith, I can't believe our year's almost up. It'll be nice to finish training and join up with our real unit.
I know. I can't wait. Where do you want to be stationed? Dieterle? Personally, I'm hoping for somewhere really nice, like Hawaii.
And I almost had our year in when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Men, gather up here around the radio. I'm afraid there's some terrible news.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Soon after, Mr. Dieterle's unit was frozen. They would remain in Mississippi where, rather than going to combat, they would train the new influx of artillerymen needed for the war effort.
Well, boot camp lasted for a couple of years because every time we would get one crew trained, they'd move them out and bring us another batch. And it wasn't all just boot for enlisted men. We trained a lot of officers too, because we went down in January 41 and didn't go overseas until the last day of 1943. So in those years, we trained a whole bunch of officers as well as enlisted men.
Well, men, today's the day you move on from here. I know many of you haven't been real happy being here for 2 years, and I don't blame you. Heck, we all want to be in the fight. However, I want you to realize what an impact you've already made on the war effort. Half of all the artillerymen sent into the Army over the past 2 years have been trained right here by you men. You've had as much of an impact on the effort as anyone else in the service, and don't you forget it. When you leave Camp Shelby, you'll be going
to Camp Carabel, Florida for amphibious training. And we were supposed to go to the European theater at that time on the Queen Mary. And the Queen had a fire in the hold and had to be repaired.
Circle up, gents.
What is it, Sarge?
Simmer down, gents, simmer down. It seems fate has given Hitler a break. The ship was going to take us to Europe. The Queen Mary had a major fire in the cargo hold, and it's going to have to undergo repairs. It looks like we won't be joining Patton's forces anytime soon.
Dieterle's path to the war was an arduous one where they encountered many setbacks. At every juncture, it seemed the plan was being rethought and redirected.
After being in Louisiana, Dieterle's unit shipped out to Hawaii, where they trained for 6 months. They ended up in Luzon in the Philippines after leaving Leyte, which is also in the Philippines. Before Leyte, his unit spent 5 months in New Guinea.
USS Cherokee hauled us from Hawaii to New Guinea. The Cherokee was a luxury liner in civilian life, and it was built to accommodate 400 to 425 people. They drained the swimming pool and built us a mess hall there. And when we traveled that run from Hawaii to New Guinea, we had 6,000 troops on a ship that was built for 400.
This sort of reappropriation was very common during the war. All of the United States' resources, not just the military ones, were mobilized in the service of the war effort.
Our outfit did not fight on New Guinea. Some of the 38th Division did. Some of it, they fought some on Leyte, but all of the 163rd Field Artillery did their fighting on Luzon.
Men, as soon as the gate lowers on the landing craft, we've got to get up the beach. I know it doesn't seem normal to rush towards gunfire, but it's what we've been trained to do. Just remember, it's okay for you to have fear, but it's not okay to let fear have you. The men to your left and the men to your right are relying on you to do your job. Don't let them down.
Well, landing on Luzon at a longa pole was at Subic Bay was one of the newest things that ever hit me, because I wasn't ready for that. I didn't know what invasion was going to be like.
Sir, they're shooting at us!
It's okay, Dieterle. They're too far away to be accurate. Just keep your head down.
Luckily for Staff Sergeant Dieterle and the other soldiers aboard the landing craft, they didn't hit a reef when they were too far out from the shore.
A lot of outfits, especially in European theater, would feel, what's the rock sticking up, coral. Feel coral out here, and when they felt coral, they'd drop the gate, and if the light wasn't good, they'd be way out in water. There'd not be 8 feet deep water in between there. Lost a lot of the 28th Division like that. They had too much junk on them. They kept kind of packs and guns, ammunition. They didn't swim with it.
The landing craft Staff Sergeant Dieterle was on was
Big enough that had a Jeep on there with us. We had our own Jeep with us. And when the ramp fell down, we pushed and drove the Jeep through the water and up on the beach.
Move across the beach, men. Get up to the tree line now. Go!
Once the beachhead was established, the soldiers broke off into their individual normal duties.
And I was in the howitzer section for most of my Army service, but when we went into combat, I transferred to the Forward Observer section, and I worked up front with the infantry.
Staff Sergeant Dieterle began working as a forward observer, working in a group of 3 to 5 men, often behind enemy lines.
Directed artillery fire. We spotted the enemy and the strong points and radioed back to the artillery and corrected the fire. If it was short, we raised the elevation, and if it was long, we backed it up.
Staff Sergeant Dieterle's unit moved across Luzon and took part in
The Battle of Zigzag Pass, and that was the bloodiest fighting we had. And Zigzag Pass cuts right across the top of the Bataan Peninsula.
Some of the biggest adjustments the American soldiers had to make dealt with getting used to the strategies of the Japanese army.
Sarge, wake up.
What is it, Coleman?
It's the Japs, Sarge. I think they're in the tree line.
What time is it, Coleman?
It's 03:11.
Jesus, what do these Japs have against sleeping?
So I never figured anybody would fight as much at night. The Japanese were night fighters. They harassed us a lot, kept us from getting any sleep.
The Battle of Luzon raged from January 9th to August 15th, 1945. Allied losses included more than 8,000 dead and over 29,000 wounded. Japanese deaths totaled more than 205,000. However, like so many other heroes of World War II, William Dieterle did not like to go into detail when discussing the tragedy that is war, or even to discuss it all for that matter. Instead, he'd rather talk about the wartime correspondence between him and his wife.
We had a deal with the government, let us have email, and we could write stamp-free letters on a little prearranged deal. Oh, it was about, she got some of them, I don't know how handy. They weren't very big. No, it was an email letter, and it was already prearranged and everything. All you had to do was write a letter in it, fold it, and address it, and they'd fly the airmail out of there. And she had pretty good service with it. And a lady from Evansville the other day had 125, 130 letters that she'd saved from her brother. And I asked the wife if she could match that number. So she counted hers, and she had over 450.
Among the medals awarded to Staff Sergeant Dieterle is the Silver Star, which is the third highest award given for valor. It ranks only behind the Congressional Medal of Honor and the Distinguished Service Navy Air Force Cross. One would probably assume that if asked about his memorable moments, William Dieterle would likely mention his actions, which earned the Silver Star, yet one would be remiss. Dieterle's most memorable moment?
Well, when I came home, I had the chance to see my firstborn, and she was 13 months old. First time I ever saw her.
William Dieterle is unquestionably a hero, one of thousands from the World War II era. And just like the vast majority of them, William Dieterle quietly reverted from Staff Sergeant Dieterle back to Mr. William Dieterle. After all, the promise of picking up where he left off before the war was the very thing which kept him going. Make no mistake, William Dieterle is a hero. But like so many other heroes of the greatest generation, if he heard you call him a hero, he'd quickly correct you and remind you that the true heroes are the ones who never made it back home to their families.